Welcome back to War and Pandemic. We've got Phil Klein from the Thomas More Society Amistad Project. First, Phil, and we asked this of Senator Colbeck, the media just says nonstop, there's no evidence, this is all baseless, Trump's running around, it's just he's making stuff up, all his people are lying. In fact, the New York Times now, not the editorial page, in the news story, it's all baseless, it's false information, it's fake news. What in your mind, what is evidence here, and what do you guys actually have as evidence?
Well, and I'll break it down into specific evidence here in a second, but I find this humorous, this effort at deception and deceiving the American people. The evidence is out there in front of their eyes, and they refuse to see it. If I was doing an investigation of you financially, and I had a search warrant to find financial documents in your home, and I showed up at the front door, you locked the door, and on a July summer day, I suddenly saw smoke coming from the chimney, that's evidence. The papers are being burned. We need to get in the home. And we've got plenty of that type of circumstantial evidence. They kicked Republicans out. They keep them out. And now we have evidence they're altering the books while we remain on the outside. That's serious evidence. We have specific evidence as it relates to people who were ordered to commit fraud within the polling place. We have evidence of all of this impact of the infusions of thousands of ballots through data analysis that shows unprecedented and unexplained spikes of drops of thousands of Biden votes in the urban core. We have the evidence of a plan that's played out where everybody in these swing states in the urban core, one, has Zuckerberg money, two, marches by the same drummer and does their election in the same way. That doesn't happen. By the way, each of these cities performed the same type of election, and each of these elections performed within the cities was contrary to state law, where the Republican areas performed differently because they followed the law. That's strong evidence. And I'll tell you what, I had my staff print out the affidavits that we have. They're still printing. I asked for the printing a couple of hours ago. I wanted to see the hard copies rather than just the reports. There are hundreds of affidavits that have come forward. But the most compelling, Steve, are the ones from a county clerk of a Republican-dominant county who says, this is how we did the election. And then we, through lawsuits, have proven and forced Democrat clerks to state they did the election differently, and the way they did it is contrary to law. The way the Republicans did it is consistent with the law. And the way the Democrats did it, it made it easier for Democrats to vote. The way the Republicans did it, they did it according to law, and they didn't favor any voter. That's strong evidence for the United States Supreme Court. It's just the mainstream media doesn't want to hear it. It doesn't fit their narrative.
Heads are blowing up, I think, on many things you said, but particularly they're altering the books even as we speak. What do you mean by that, and what proof do you have that that's happening?
Well, we in Pennsylvania, for example, in Centre County, we pulled down the election results, and there were some things that would raise concerns, questions that need to be investigated about who voted. Things like Louisa May Smith, Louisa June Smith, Louisa July Smith, Louisa August Smith, Louisa September Smith. And as we pulled down that data and started to mine it for these anomalies, we purchased the data again 2 weeks later. And guess what? There's not all these Louisa give me a month Smiths in the book anymore. They've been consolidated into one person. So what that shows, and I'm not saying that's fraud, it shows they have preserved the ability to manage the books, to make it look better, even as litigation is going forward. And that's not proper. If I have subpoenaed your records, if I am suing you and your records are at issue, you shouldn't be left alone in the room to do what you want with those records and alter those records. That's what's happening right now. And that needs to be stopped. So, you've got the back end trying to cover it up. We've got other examples where they have commingled the jump drives from these various machines, unbreaking the seal and commingling them, making it difficult to run the chain of custody of the jump drive with the vote back to the machine that read the count. We have commingling of ballots. They take ballots which were supposed to be kept apart, they commingle them, it becomes impossible to audit. That type of stuff is going on in these cities right now.
Why, don't you have enough probable cause that you could go in and seize the books or just seize the process and make sure that's totally secure, even over and above the election officials? Because you obviously can't trust them. And when you think about the Dominion systems, and particularly as we're told that they don't even need to flow it back to servers outside the country, that the changes can be made, all the data that you need is right on the machine right there. Why is no one going into legal authorities and getting with probable cause and having the machine seized, the book seized, all of that seized like immediately? If you've got so much compelling evidence, why are you not doing it, or why is the campaign not doing it, or why is the state party officials not doing it?
Well, I think there is evidence to do that. And I think that it takes, and there's all the experts will tell you something real simple, Steve. You don't know what happened with these machines unless you get the computer logs. And they're refusing the computer logs. That is sufficient for law enforcement to move in. I don't know where law enforcement has been on this. I can tell you this. There is machines in law enforcement. There are machines in law enforcement custody. I can't reveal any more than that. We have tried. We have asked for judges to stop this process and have been turned down. And the only way I can explain that is if we are with the deconstruction of law and deconstruction of truth. And the best example is in Michigan, where the law says as these inspectors have these ballots and the flawed ballot, and they're actually filling out a new ballot. So I've got a person's ballot who won't run through the machine. Then I sit there with 4 other people and I vote for them. I actually complete the new ballot, feed it, and cast it. So I think they voted for Biden. I'm going to vote for Biden. These people are doing this to tens of thousands of ballots. The law says a person must be in the place where this is done, a Republican and a Democrat, and they signed the form that it was done correctly. That makes sense. But what they did is they put all 134 of these counting boards now into one location. They put the Republican up in the cheap seat so that they couldn't see what was going on. And they claim they were in accordance with the law because a Republican was in the place. He was in the place. Well, Detroit's a place, and there's a Republican there. That's how bad this lack of truth and understanding of words is, and judges are agreeing with it. The clear purpose of the law is to make sure that the election was done with integrity, not that there's a human being that's alive and breathing that can't see the count that is in the city where the count occurred. But judges can't see past it because of their partisanship or the deconstruction of truth. It is shocking. We have a lawless election because we have a judicial system. Many of those people don't believe in truth anymore. So that's the best I can explain it. We have the evidence. That stuff should be stopped. It should be seized, but we can't get the judges to move.
Phil, this is Jack Maxey. I have a question about the integrity of the actual data inside the voter rolls. It's one thing to have the county be able to go in and change things after the fact while we're in this period of discussion about securing that data. What about these third parties that many of these states allowed access to their voter rolls to register people on the streets because of COVID and all this stuff? Do these third party, these non-governmental actors still have access to these voter rolls? Are they still able to go in there and change addresses willy-nilly?
Well, and let me go to the first point first. Those people entering registrations. It used to be that, like the League of Women Voters would have the table, you fill out the information, they give it to a clerk. The reason they give it to the election clerk is, one, there's transparency. That clerk has a geographic responsibility. They put the data in, and everybody could check and see if they're doing their job and FOIA that information. Two, they have political accountability. If they screw up, you fire them. Now, when you give that access out to third parties, there's no transparency, there's no political accountability. And we've heard all the discussions about how easy it is to access our poll books and hack them from without. We've given another vulnerable point to those within the system. It doesn't have to be rock the vote's intent. It could be a nefarious actor who is volunteering for them, who could easily penetrate this system and add new registrants to the poll. And on the back end, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people who are suddenly registered in their old states under old names who have voted. We're seeing new creations of people who are requested absentee ballots. We're seeing all the evidence that somebody got into those poll books and altered the poll books. I believe it comes through that third-party access. On the back end, there are groups involved in designing the poll books. One of them is the Center for Election Innovation and Research. Mark Zuckerberg gave them $50 million. They've been involved on the back end and all the way through the process designing the software as it relates to our poll books. So, yes, they have made it vulnerable to political activists who are funded by a billionaire.
Yeah. Phil, can I just stay through one more commercial break? I just got a couple more questions.